What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are having a great day. As always, if you haven't already subscribed, make sure you guys go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Today we're doing an update on my Jeep WJ 1-ton axle swap. So as a lot of you guys know, I went and picked up these axles about 6 months ago. I haven't gotten around doing much work, but now we're going to be trying to finish up this axle swap and getting everything under the Jeep. So in this episode, we're going to be cleaning up the front housing, the Dana 60 housing out of a 2005 Super Duty. So let's just go over all that and all the work it's going to take and show you guys how to do it. So this is by far the worst part of cleaning up these axles and getting these things under the Jeep is cutting off this factory bracket right here. These suck. It's solid metal, part of the center section, so it just takes forever. You have to go through it, basically cut little slits down in, and then go back across and just chip it away basically. Absolutely terrible, but it's got to be done. We're making pretty good progress. It's eating through cutting disc on the angle grinder though, so I'm probably gonna have to go pick up some more at some point today. But the plan is to get this axle finished, cleaned up by the end of the day so we can set the truss on and kind of begin figuring that out, maybe tack it together and just see how it fits and everything like that. The center section, cutting that back 2 inches is going to suck probably just as much as this, but let's get to finish cleaning this up. So I picked up new wire brush, that way we can clean up all the truss pieces and the tubes when the time comes to weld. That way everything's a clean surface and we get as good of a weld as possible. I'm by no means a welder, so this is gonna be my first big welding project, but I think I'll be able to make it happen. Then I got this wire wheel for the drill. So my plan is, since I can't get Reed racing knuckles, is to go ahead and use these knuckles. I obviously have to clean them up a ton. It's gonna be a lot of work, but we already have them. Then I'm gonna get either the Barnes or the R-Tech high steer kit, probably the Barnes kit, and we're gonna run with that. The Reed knuckles seem to be quite back ordered and I don't feel like waiting. I love them. They're what I have on the Wrangler and they work great. However, we just don't have the time to wait around with this axle, so I'm not going to run them on this. If they come in stock later and I want to upgrade, I'll go ahead and order a set and we'll switch these out. But for now, the Barnes kit's like $115 and it's pretty simple. Bolts in through here with a 1-inch bolt and then also welds on up here. Or up on this side, sorry, this is the top. Fairly simple, fairly straightforward, and we'll go ahead and run that for a while, see how we like it. It'll allow us to use Heim joints. Not a huge fan of Heim joints on a driven car. However, this Jeep doesn't get driven very often. I didn't like Heim joints on this Jeep. This Jeep is just going to be basically off-road and event driven, so it's not really going to get many on-road miles. So Heim joints will be great for this setup. So we're going to go ahead and run that kit on the front. Then I also picked up I believe it's 36 grit flap disc. These are great for taking down the remaining parts of the brackets that were on here. As you guys can see, I've been doing quite a bit here. Have to finish cutting this bracket off, finish cutting these off, take off these on both sides, which are kind of a pain. Then have to take off this one, obviously, but this is going to be the big part. I have to cut this center cast section back 2 inches. It's going to be a lot of work, and you can't cut too deep or you cut into the tubes. So you kind of just chip away at it really, really slowly. So let's get to work today. Hopefully we'll have this finished by the end of the day and can begin welding probably tomorrow. I do have to go ahead and take the knuckles off before we start welding. But once this is all together, we'll basically have a housing that is ready to bolt in underneath the Jeep. Then it comes into putting lockers, gears in, axle shaft seals, bearings, all that kind of stuff. Get the axle ready to go underneath of the Jeep. Alright, so this side is basically done. Here, you can't even tell there was ever a bracket. Still got to clean that up a bit, but fairly simple. I'm going to move to this side. So pretty much I have to cut as much of this away on the back as I want. And then up here, I got to make it flush with this. Take this bracket off and bring this in 2 inches. That's going to be the worst part. I'm going to get to work on cleaning this part up. This is the factory bracket. Going to cut a bunch of it off, so that way we're good to go. Quick update. So basically, almost done with the leftover brackets here. These would not come off. They're like the axle side coil buckets for the factory F2 or Super Duty. They wouldn't come off, so I cut them up. We cut both sides off. I just took the Sawzall and went straight underneath because the bolts either rounded off or were rusted in place. I think I'm going to go back through here at some point and clean this up because we don't need this at all. The truss and the new coil bucket will sit about right there. So we won't need this one bit. So I'm probably going to come through and clean it up just so it looks a whole lot better. Now at this point, I'm going to probably finish cutting off this here. However, this will be a lot easier to get to once I trim this back. Before we do that though, I'm going to have to head to the store. Once again, this is like the 5th trip to the store for cutoff blades. The plan is mark 2 inches in and just like score around the outside of it with the angle grinder. And then cut in like that. And then hopefully we can get like a chisel or something underneath and just chip it up. And we'll have to go all the way around and do that. That's probably going to be the absolute worst part. I'll put a picture up on screen so you guys can see what I have to do and how much we have to cut off. Before, there was this massive bracket here, so that's most of the way gone. I still have to clean up the back, but I want to like set the truss up and see how that sits before we go ahead and finish that. Just because I want to cut, kind of want to leave some back there just for strength and everything. Don't want to cut too much away. So I'm going to go ahead and finish trimming this up and that one up. Possibly cut this off here, and then we'll go ahead and start cutting that back. All right, so in order to keep track of how far back I have to cut, I got this like paint pen thing. So we're going to mark all the way around this 2 inches back, and then that way I'll know where to stop. We are going to have to go through some of these plug welds, which might be a pain. However, they don't look like they were done very well from factory. It's like barely filled. So it shouldn't be too bad. Plan is score around here and cut into it. From what I've read, this is like 0.44 inches deep. Then we'll come through at an angle here and try to chip it out. Once we get one part out, it should be easy to go the rest of the way around. Just getting started will be an issue. So I'm going to go ahead and mark out 2 inches. All right, so we went ahead and got 2 inches marked out. I'm going to go ahead and go around this first with the angle grinder and just cut into it a little bit. Then we'll come in sideways here. Possibly have to go in at an angle to get it like chipped away up here and try to get the first chunk out. So I basically have the whole housing sanded down besides a few spots that I just want to go ahead and fit the truss on and then figure out how much of this I can cut off, because that would be ideal to have as little as possible. Over here I have to finish grinding down this last little bit of the bracket, which isn't too bad. It just sort of sucks a little bit, but it's not that bad compared to cutting this back. Cutting this off, I'd say the worst part was cutting off this bracket right here. Definitely the worst part. But we got most of it cleaned up. So the next time you guys see this axle, we're actually going to be ready to weld on the truss from Barnes. Now, I'm super excited for that, because once that's on, it'll start to kind of take shape and be how we want it to be to go under the Jeep. And we'll essentially have a housing that is ready to bolt under the Grand Cherokee. So next time you guys see this, we'll be welding on the truss. I'm going to show you guys how to do that. It's a little tricky. Welding to like the tubes is different than welding to the cast center. This will be a little more in-depth of a process. However, it's not too terrible to do. And I mean, I'm by no means a welder, and I'll be able to do it. So you guys will be able to do it too if you're following along with this. So that's basically just a quick overview of where we're at with this axle. I basically spent the last week finishing up the housing and get everything set up. I still have a little bit of work to do, but we're almost ready to put the truss on. So like I said, next video is the truss. Now, if you guys are new here, you're gonna probably not know, but we're gonna be 1-ton swapping my Jeep WJ that is on 35s right now, going up to at least 40s, coilovers, full cage, all that kind of stuff, building an insane rock crawler out of a Jeep WJ. We're gonna be documenting the whole process on my YouTube channel. So if that's something you guys like, make sure you guys go ahead and subscribe. Basically, we're going to be walking through how to do the 1-ton swap, what you're going to need to do it, how to do it, how to gear your axles, weld trusses on, all that stuff, all the way down to installing them on the Jeep. We're also going to go over like coilover installs, cage building, all that kind of stuff on my Jeep, and show you guys how to get it all done and walk you through the process of building my rock crawler. So I think that'll be really cool. So if you guys like that, make sure you subscribe. And as always, guys, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.